Now we have a different conversation, although it's related, right? Because we're all focused in on international business and international success. And certainly one of the things that we need to really think about every day is technology and information, and how can I use information in a better way for my business? And so Yushini is a consulting leader, and she and her partner Dishan have come together to use technology to be able to, instead of kind of the old consulting approach, have a new type of consulting approach that utilizes technology in a much more direct way. And so we've really been excited to have seen this all work out. And I know Colin, now I understand, Colin, you being on the call for this meeting as well, because Colin is, we mentioned about his experience in Arizona in our earlier meeting. However, Colin is now our Global Chamber Executive Director in Manila. And so he had decided to retire to Manila, and this global thing and his activity and being involved in the community and having an impact wouldn't let go. It was something he needed to do. And so now he's working with us. And I know he's got a lot of experience, direct experience, using the system that Yushini is going to be talking about today. And he'll be an advocate and speaking about that as an advocate. So Yushini, thank you for all of your success and your progress. We're really looking forward to the conversation today to help small and medium-sized businesses be more successful in this big global world. Thank you.
Thanks for the space, Doug, and to everybody who signed in. As Doug mentioned, we don't just work in the digital and the tech space. We also are management consultants. So what I'm going to be sharing with you is purely based on the insights and the learnings from both legs or verticals of our business, and we're seeing it, tech and AI is not just some term that you throw around anymore. Neither is digital transformation. In order to really think about your business and to grow, improve, transform, and most importantly, sustain your business, you really have to be in a very good understanding or space where you understand your business processes, and then be able to think about how you can be doing things differently for your business. And, in order for businesses to survive going forward, I think it's absolutely critical for technology to be a factor that needs to be considered. With me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just share some insights with you, Doug, I'm going to use the basis of the pandemic for the conversation today, but not because the pandemic has been the reason for all the technological shifts. It surely has been a catalyst. But as I was saying before, digital transformation has been on the agenda items for a long enough period. And specifically for us, considering what the business failure rates were pre-pandemic, and now as a result of the pandemic, the number of new businesses that have entered the market, it's important for us to point out that the reason that businesses are failing is still pretty much the same. And one of the big reasons that businesses are failing is purely because of the business's inability to adapt to the changing environment. And we're seeing it. We're seeing what the pandemic has done to the business environment. We're seeing how consumer demands have changed. We're seeing how people have been expecting more from businesses. If businesses have not been able to keep up and adapt to just what the pandemic has done, given the fact that we've had 4 waves and now a looming 5th wave, it's a scary reality that they need to wake up to, that consumer preferences and profiles have changed. We were lucky enough to travel, over the last couple of weeks, and it seems to be a common case that what you're seeing locally in South Africa, what you're hearing from the businesses that we're exposed to across the globe, and what we're seeing in the environment is that consumers are looking for different. They're looking for self-service. They're looking for businesses that they can do research on. They're looking to review your business. So if you are a business that has not been able to keep up with that, you are going to struggle.
Understand. Absolutely. Well, how would you like to structure the conversation today so that we can best communicate the information that you have?
So I'm very grateful to be joined by my colleague, Colin. um, Colin, with his experience, has also had some exposure to some of the insights and the learnings that we've had. We've I'd just like to talk and, give some insights around what's been happening in the SME space, how businesses have been adapting and how they haven't been adapting, and where the businesses that haven't been adapting, what the impact has been on them. And then Colin can talk to his experience and how he's experienced our solutions, because I really do believe that we do have an answer for businesses who need to work around the failure rates. And I mean, Colin can talk to that. And then I'd like to, open the conversation to everybody that's taken the time out to join us today.
Fantastic. Colin, I'm wondering, we've already did a little bit of an introduction of you. Colin, and I'd add a little bit more. Colin and I met, we were trying to, I think, figure this out probably 10 or 12 years ago or so. And then he ran a successful medical transcription and technology company. And through that experience, he was quite successful. And then he needed to sell it, and then pulled me in to help out with a little bit of that and put the bow on it so he could get a nice price and retire in Manila. I don't know at what point he was headed back to the Philippines or not, but then he did end up reaching back out after probably a year or two and interest with Global Chamber. And so he's been very involved throughout his career and currently in technology and in helping companies be successful. He's done it himself, very successful medical technology company. And so, Colin, curious to see how your experience was, because you introduced these technologies to companies in the Philippines, and wondering what you saw and what we should be taking away from it.
Yes, yeah, Doug. I think maybe even 14 years ago, I think we met.
Wow.
And also, I just it's been so wonderful for me to watch how Global Chamber, emerged from the early days and has grown all around the world. I still remember those informal sort of lunch meetings we had in Phoenix, 12, 13, 14 years ago with what was it? The Arizona International Growth Group, meetings, those ASIC meetings. Remember those?
I totally forgot that you were one of the first speakers that we had.
Yeah,
remember
ASIC, yeah.
The city of Phoenix, that round auditorium in downtown. It was like a breakfast or something like that. You were like one of the first people that we had as a speaker. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're talking about doing business in Asia to an Arizona crowd. It was fun, but to Yushini's point, it's actually a very exciting time with digital transformation, and because it sort of levels the playing field, right? We're able now to put tools into people's hands that maybe 5-10 years ago only the big boys, the big companies, could afford the types of tools we have. And I think for me, the most important thing is whenever I'm talking to entrepreneurs, one of my favorite concepts or words to put forth is the idea of being intentional, because we all know how difficult it is. I'm sure in this group today, there's many entrepreneurs who've been through the trenches of forming a business, and that the urgent often displaces the important. You tend to be resource constrained, money constrained on money, so days go by, weeks go by, months go by, and unfortunately, then a lot of companies fail. And so the thing is that it's very easy to tell someone, well, be intentional, plan things out, and look at the what and why and how of what you need to do to your business. But it's difficult on a day in, day out basis to then have the discipline to do that just on your own or in some sort of manual fashion, right? So this is where I think digital transformation comes in, and tools. You know, in particular, I'm very excited that we've been working closely with Yushini and B.E.T, the Business Enabling Toolbox, because it really has equipped entrepreneurs, and especially the micro and small enterprises, to provide a tool that not only educates and equips, but to me, the real value has been that it allows you to approach each day in an intentional way. So, you know, I'd like to talk more about that in the conversation, but just to sort of set the stage a little bit as to, you know, where we can go with this.
Sounds good. Great prelude. Yushini, then, you know, in terms of next steps, how would you like to add to that?
So look, in terms of digital transformation, right? And while this is a hot topic at the moment, to Colin's point about being intentional, I think there's a very big misconception around what digital transformation actually means for small businesses, right? It's not about throwing massive amounts of money at the problem. It's about really understanding how you can streamline your business, how you can take a look at what is applicable to your business and how you can do things differently. And while we are in this changing environment and the changing narrative of both the consumer as well as the employee, given the massive changes that are happening in the workforce, it's about how can you make the life of your employee as well as your consumer easier, more simplistic, and still be profitable at the end of the day, right? It's not about just going and saying, you know, I need to bring in massive technologies. It's about what's relevant for your business. And that's where the intentionality comes in. And that's where people need to be purposeful in terms of thinking about AI or artificial intelligence as well as technology. Now, on top of that, I mean, we are operating in an environment where we've never had access to this amount of data before, right? And it's about what you're doing with the data that is available to you to make a difference in your business. And, you know, I use this loosely when we engage with business owners, you know, and I ask the question, so if you are a customer to your business, would you remain a customer? And therein lies the answer, how your customers are experiencing you, right? That would give you an indication of what you need to be doing differently, what sort of solutions you need to be bringing to your customers, and what would be applicable to your customers. I also am of the opinion that digital transformation should be something that impacts the entire organization in a positive way, you know, where the business is able to collaboratively operate as opposed to just incorporating some big solution in one area of the business and not thinking about how it impacts every other area of the business. I mean, we are seeing it in some of the businesses that we work with and that we support, you know. It's as simple as making sure you have an online presence. It's as simple as making sure you have a responsive website, because while I'm saying that we have access to these copious amounts of data, people are reliant on the internet. People will not run their lives without using the internet. You have 4 or 5 devices connected to the internet at any given point. You are reviewing businesses that you are about to do work with. Your customers are leaving reviews on the type of services that you are offering. If you're not keeping up with those kinds of priorities or necessities, then, you know, I mean, your survival is really a choice. There are other instances where I think that, you know, businesses fall short. And I think that they could be a little bit more deliberate about incorporating these aspects into their operations. You know, we still come across businesses that are operating manually, right? So fundamental business processes are being manually driven in a business. So where you are not automating things like stock taking, things like inventory management, you are prone to wastage, you are prone to mismanagement of funds, you are facilitating, the lack of profit that can be realized within your business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, massive amounts of digital transformation. It's just about understanding what is applicable in your business and how you can do things simpler, better, faster. I honestly believe that given the things that we've seen, in the recent travels, customers being able to be self-sufficient and to service themselves, you're seeing it in the restaurant chains, you're seeing it at airports, you're seeing it everywhere. People are looking for opportunities to reduce engagement. And that would mean that, taking into consideration, you've got a mixed bag of customers that you need to service. You do have the folk that still want to be engaging face-to-face, but for those that are not looking to be face-to-face engaging, how do you service them? What do you do with those clients? And this is where, your ability to operate efficiently will come in.
So that's, everything you say makes sense, right? And the flip side of this is like when we run into people that are still using AOL email and their website looks like it's from the Stone Ages. And so that's kind of the past. And now most businesses, and certainly everybody in the global chamber, have a digital presence, right? They have a website that looks good and sharp. And but I think all of us understand what you're saying, right? That there's this massive amount of information and that we should be leveraging it. And, but how do you do it? Like, what's the practical way that you get from this world of wow to wow, meaning it goes right to the bottom line, right? How do you actually systematize that and implement the actual taking the data, processing it? Just before you answer, I just wanted to mention about Shankar Damodaran, who's the Global Chamber Executive Director for Ahmedabad, India. He's spent a lot of time the last 6 to 9 months really educating himself and others around artificial intelligence and using artificial intelligence to implement it in your business. And there's lots of different custom solutions. But the magic that you're providing and a lot of what you have is that systematization of this, right? Of taking the data that you really want to get and see and process it in a way that is going to be valuable for the business. Could you talk a little bit about that aspect as well?
So you're asking about the how, right? And I think very importantly, we covered the why. So why is it important? Yep. The how now means that in understanding your business, you are using the information to make better decisions, to proactively think about planning, about responding to customer concerns, because ultimately you are around and you're in survival because of the consumer, right? But before I jump into that, I want to talk to you about some of the trends that we've noticed. So you're asking about the how, and this tags onto how you actually bring this all to life, right? How to incorporate the stuff into your business. So you're looking at social media, right? Social media has become, if you just think about the pandemic and you see what TikTok and Snapchat has done to advertising, you see that brands were formed overnight and they've flourished because of social media and the number of social media apps that are available. There's a scary statistic that there are more than 3,500 apps being launched on the Google Play Store every single day. There is an app for just about everything that you can think of. And think about how reliant we are on apps. Small businesses have found it so much easier in the payroll and payment space, right? Bookkeeping solutions that are available. You see what that's been doing to businesses, where you are now less reliant on an accountant and you are more able to make decisions in your business, firsthand. You're seeing it in terms of of the way customers experience you, customer communication, the introduction of bots, the introduction of, chats on your website, on responsive websites. People are able to, and customers are able to engage with you firsthand. You're seeing where smart devices are being incorporated into businesses, in restaurants, even at airports. Smart devices are being used to give you the ability to do what you need to do for yourself, as opposed to having that face-to-face engagement with someone that, in the world that we're living in right now, the risk, the anticipation of being exposed, those kinds of things. But then you're also seeing the flip side of that being the need for cybersecurity and collaborative tools, right? In this remote working environment, you're seeing that people need to find better ways to work together and to have businesses run efficiently and using all the resources that you have. Now, in terms of the how, and how our system actually does this for you, what we do is, and Colin can jump in here, but what we do with our system is that we've changed the face of the way businesses are run, in that we are encouraging business owners to not work just in their business. We're asking them to think a little bit differently about their businesses and to free up time to work on the business. So where you are streamlining processes and where you are firsthand pulling information on the business, with the monitoring and evaluation of the day-to-day running of the business, you are able to make better decisions. What we've also done is we've added a high level of coaching into the business. So our tool is completely self-diagnostic. And the reason for that is that business owners are able to go and evaluate their businesses themselves, being less reliant on a consultant, and no disrespect to the consultant, because I am one too, right? But very often you see that when a consultant leaves your business and when you are left to run your business on your own, you sometimes don't have the kind of capability that you're expecting that they do impart, right? So what you find is that all that work falls flat. But what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get the business owner to think about their business, to start looking at the different elements of their business as a business unit, as opposed to just thinking about sales differently and just thinking about finance differently and to just think about risk differently.
Yeah, if I can also jump in on this question about the how. So I opened up saying I like to focus people on being intentional, right? So then the next obvious question is, well, what should I focus on? Intentional on what? And many years ago, when I was younger and more naive, I used to think that there were sort of two types of knowledge: the things you know and the things you don't know, right? And then as I got more and more into business, I realized actually the things you know, if you think of a pie chart, the things you know are a very little narrow slice, and the things you don't know are quite a bit bigger slice. But those two slices are a tiny part of the pie. So then this third area is the things you didn't know you don't know. And that's usually what blindsides you, right? So those are the things that you didn't know. And so I've always struggled with this, and I've done, in the businesses I've been involved in, this is where it's always been the toughest for both the management team and employees to address that. So one of the reasons I got so excited when I ran across this Business Enabling Toolbox that Yushini's company put together is she mentioned the Self-Diagnostic Tool. So here's the concept. It sort of blew my mind when I first saw it, but it exactly addresses this issue of being intentional and then also dealing with the things you didn't know. So what it does is it takes you through a diagnostic tool and asks you a bunch of questions, and you answer, yes, we do this, no, we don't do that. And suddenly you discover, oh my gosh, it's asking me a bunch of questions I never thought about before. Why? Because I didn't know. It was in that third part of the pie that we spend so much time in. And so based on your responses, in essence, it's what we often call a gap analysis, right? It's finding the gaps in your business. And it does this across all of the key elements of running a business: customers, operational process, finance, marketing, sales and marketing, right? Legal. And so then what you end up with is a tailored action plan, right? Because based on this gap analysis, then it's identifying, okay, this is the action plan that is going to help you plug all of those areas that you've been blindsided on. And I think this is where a lot of micro and small entrepreneurs have the biggest risk of failure, because if you're in a medium-sized enterprise, or certainly corporation, if you're in a big corporation, they have experts on every topic, right? So the things that they didn't know, that part of the pie is much smaller because they have all of these specialists running around. When you're more in a small business and you're relying on more generalists, then you have a much bigger risk of these gaps. So when you end up with a tailored action plan, now all of a sudden this concept of being intentional starts to look like, oh, actually this is achievable, because you then each day, through the use of the platform, first thing you do is you go to your action plan. Okay, I need to plug these gaps in my business, and then each of those gaps is also tied to a feature or function that addresses how you do that, whether it's inventory management or sales invoicing or people managing your HR topics, or your customer management, or your marketing, your finance dashboard, right? Whatever your gap happened to be, then you connect your action plan to a specific actionable tool to address that. So to be honest, I was I was just blown away when I realized that this tool had been developed around a problem that I had been wrestling with for so many years, right? And Doug, of course, you worked, as you mentioned earlier, with my previous business that we sold, and we were still quite a fairly small size business, and we these are the kinds of things we were struggling with, and these were in the pre-digital transformation days. We didn't have access to a tool like that, or if we did, we probably couldn't have afforded it. So I think that's what digital transformation has really done. It's like to democratize access to powerful tools without breaking the bank, but also creating something that's practical and easy enough to use because of what web browser and web technology has done, that it can be accessed. And then final point is you can, it's perfect fit with Global Chamber, because these are universal topics. I don't care if you're running a business here in the Philippines or in Ghana or in Phoenix, or in London. This concept of how you build an intentional plan of success is universal. So I think it's something that can help our members all around the world.
Powerful, very, very powerful. I know, Yushini, we want to open it up for questions along the way. And in the meantime, I encourage everybody to add any questions that you have in the chat area. Yushini, what Colin just went through was, I'm glad I was seated, because that was a powerful sensibility for any entrepreneur or any business person to, the realization that we face, right? That there's so many moving pieces, and you're adding all of that data as another piece, right? Which makes entrepreneurship more complicated if it's done the wrong way, right? So what reaction do you have to what Colin talked about?
So I couldn't have described it any better.
That's great.
But I mean, there's something that I'd just like to, touch on in terms of what Colin was talking about. One of the other things that we find especially within small businesses, right, is that there's often a mismatch of outputs in terms of role requirements. So you don't always know what you're supposed to be doing. What we're trying to do as well with the tool is that we're trying to make performance management easier, because you're getting the upskilling too. So you understand, and everybody in your organization can understand what needs to be done in terms of the function or in terms of the role they're in. You are able to understand the outputs in terms of the rands and cents, in terms of the KPIs that have been set. You can assess whether you are actually improving or not. And you have real-time access to this information, right? So that's really powerful in that you are able to manage in the moment. Now, any business owner understands that, or any leader for that matter, or any executive will understand that if you don't have a view of what's happening in your organization, it becomes very difficult to manage performance, to manage profitability, to assess how your business is actually performing. And this is one of the other places where we believe there is value in what we are offering, in the full real-time assessment of your business, rands and cents, as well as KPIs.
Understand. I think we do need to take some questions, but I also, sorry, I'm being an engineer here, but in terms of like, what are we really talking about here? Could you describe a little bit about what this is? What is it? Is it a 747 or a bread box? And from a technology perspective, like what is it? And then how do we get our hands around this? And then I think it would be appropriate to open it up for questions. Once people, undoubtedly, your people are asking like, well, okay, so what do I do? Do I plug it into my computer? Do I read a book and then go and do it? How does it actually work? So I'm back to the how question, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. So it's web-based, right? And the reason for it being web-based is because it's responsive. It's scalable. You can access it in any location. So if you are a business that has multiple locations, it's, you can use it anyway. And because it's also web-based, you have access to the information on any device, whether it's your phone, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your tablet. So that is the how.
Okay.
Right?
The
That's
how part of which data to look at, how do you get to that point? That's a different question, right? Or does it allow like the questions that Colin talked about? I love that, Colin. It's like we run into stuff, right? And we make all these decisions based on what that thin sliver of what, right, not what we don't know and what we really should know, but don't even know that we don't know kind of stuff.
Correct.
It would be great, almost every time we make a decision, right, to have something in our brain saying, well, have you thought about this? What about this? That is that kind of what this walks through, not just on the day-to-day, but way before that, like what data should I be worried about? There's all this stuff going on. And you talked about the web and social media. It's like, does any of that really matter to my business, and which parts of it?
So Colin, I'm going to give you the space, but before I give you the space, I'd like to, so yes, absolutely. All of those things do matter. It is covered, right? So what we do with the platform is we take you through the what, why, and how. So the what is sharing information about what you should be focusing on and why it's important to be focusing on. Then you fall into the how. Now the how is where the diagnostic component comes in. So you will diagnose your business by function, right? And based on your diagnostic, you will have a tailored action plan. The tailored action plan is also linked to downloadable tools and templates. Now, if you think about an SME or a solopreneur or a business that's just starting up, having access to those kinds of things where it's completely customizable for you, already available because you're being shown that you actually need it because you don't know what you don't know, is in itself a big solution, right? Take it a level further. What we do is we look at your day-to-day operation of your business by asking for inputs on key KPIs. And based on that information, we then pull together all that information for you and give you a view daily, weekly, and monthly of how your business is actually performing. In addition to that, the business coach that we're talking about is your prompts that, so based on how your business is performing, we're prompting you to look at different things in your business. Go and access different information. Go and think about this differently. Is there something that you could possibly be doing different? Then with that, because we are saying that we are asking business owners to be intentional and to be thinking about their business as opposed to be just working in your business, what we do is we also provide a business manager that allows you to manage your stock, allows you to manage your invoicing, allows you to manage your people, it assists you in every area of your business.
Got it. There's a couple questions in the chat area. I think one that David just asked is an important one. And he says, like, I feel this does sound amazing. I agree. Does it make sense to run through a demo for a few different use cases, just so that we can see the practicality of that? Are you equipped to be able to do that today, or just to show kind of how it works? Or
I'm thinking about your timing, but what I can do is I will drop the links of our videos. And in fact, it was actually listed in the event details for this particular reason, right?
Got it.
So you'll get to see what it looks like, and you'll also get to see how it actually works.
Perfect. So it's on the website, and it's on the event listing as well. That would be great.
On the event listing, yes.
That would be great.
Yeah, I've seen those videos. I think that's a really good suggestion, that the video is long enough that it kind of walks you through how the platform works. And one of the things to add to what Yushini was saying is on, I think we didn't mention explicitly, there's training modules in the platform as well. So before you do your self-assessment, you may want to just brush up on some topics first, reduce that part of the pie that you didn't know. And so they have like bite-sized training, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-minute videos, educational videos on all the different topics, customer management, finance, operations, etc. So it's kind of like a learning management, built in with the toolbox as well. But yeah, the video, I think, will make that clear.
Just on that, sorry, Colin, to interrupt you, but we didn't want to deliver a certificate at the end of every module. What we wanted was to provide enough information for the business owner to understand what is important and why it's important. And then, in terms of the self-diagnostic, the diagnostic is not based on the content that you cover. And yes, it's great because it gives you an indication of what you don't know. But what the diagnostic does is it assesses the actual operation of your business. So therein lies the benefit of not knowing what you don't know. So yes, you're getting information on how it should be running and what it should be looking like, but you are assessing the way your business actually operates.
I see.
Not an ideal blueprint.
Got it. There's quite a number of people in the audience I see that are just really brilliant in many different ways, including 2 digital transformation leaders, Yuka Nakasone in Barcelona, and Kuntal Warwick, who we heard from earlier, who does this for a living. And Kuntal, I see you have a couple questions in the chat area. Rather than ask either one of them, are you in a position where you can break away and ask either one of those or a third question that you have?
Sure. Thank you, Doug. And thank you, Yushini and Colin, for the explanation. This is amazing. One of the things, my question really comes from a place where over the last few years, I've had the opportunity, particularly in California, to, through the state of California, to assist with digital transformation. This has been a major initiative in California, and where it started was for retail companies and even service-based companies to convert to e-commerce. And then it sort of went from there, and I had the opportunity to work with a number of companies who were transitioning kind of non-traditional or non-digital businesses to digital businesses. So real estate, for instance, and, creating a more of a crowdfunding type of engagement with their audiences, and then now working in the learning and development space and digitizing that and automating that process. And so my question really comes from, having now witnessed a lot of these things. I think the issue is always application, right? And making the job easier, not only the process, but also then the output a little bit easier for the company as well as their customers. And I think ultimately that's the gauge, is does it increase customer engagement? Does it increase sales? Does it increase whatever metric, as you mentioned, KPIs that you want to use? So sorry, I'm being a little long-winded, but my question is really about, can you give us an example of how you've worked with a company and seen those KPIs, just so that we get a sense of what does the end result look like?
So I can give you quite a few insights on this, right? So what we've seen based on the data and the information and the usage is that operational costs have dropped by 25%. Now, in saying that, we've also been very deliberate in the way we've been prompting and coaching to look for sales opportunities. And Colin, you can also talk to this, right? So understanding where you're spending your money, understanding how to use your money differently, and understanding how to increase sales is a big focus for us.
Okay, thank you.
We have about 10 minutes left before we'll end this program. Before we do that, certainly
I'm going to pop the links into the chat very quickly, but I am listening. I am listening to you.
Okay, great. I think I found one of them because it looked like there were 2 links there on the event page, and I'll put the event page back there as well, just so that if there's something we missed. And so, yes, please do that. While you're doing that, Yushini, I also want to just kind of frame it in terms of you're doing a second conversation in a week, I think, right? It's like next week. And how does that conversation relate to this one? Is it a continuation or is it a different topic?
So it's both and. It is a continuation of what we've been doing and what we've been seeing in the tech space, but it's another one of our solutions. So B.E.T is aimed at your smaller enterprise, your micro enterprise, your solopreneur. What we've done is we've taken a hard look at the consulting space, and we've looked at what is needed for the medium-sized enterprise. And we've developed another solution, which is Edvysor. An Edvysor also takes a business to the next level by ensuring that there's a very big focus on strategic planning to tactical implementation, which is another big key in businesses, right? You don't necessarily, leaders don't always know what's happening throughout the organization. And this is where we are able to look at goal setting, look at transparency within an organization, look at how businesses should be operating with, aligning it with global best business practices, and helping the business to transition from where they are to where they could potentially be. So the focus is different. It's aimed at different businesses, but this is also, Edvysor as a platform can be used within your business, as well as consultants using it in their businesses for their clients.
Thank you. So that's a week from today is the second piece.
Yes, let me just get you this.
Which builds on this. I think ended the poll that we had earlier and we had 100% voting. That's pretty wild. So 45% said either yes, I'm currently using digital solutions or considering it. And then 55% said not for the moment. So it's being shared. There we go. Thank you. I didn't know how to do that. So roughly 50-50 of this group. So, I mean, I think what both of you have shared is revolutionary. So that it's really awesome. What other questions do we have in the audience? I know Yuka, I mentioned, had to drop off. She sent me or all of us a message. Does anybody else want to add either a comment or a question, please? And just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Maybe Doug, while people are thinking of their question, I loved, Kuntal, I loved your question about, sort of examples. I'll tell you a project that I worked on here over the last couple of years in the Philippines that took something that you would think as being very low tech, and that is, I worked with this group of it's independent gasoline stations, and they were trying to compete with the likes of Shell Oil and Texaco and things like that we have here, and the big national oil company Petron. And so what they did was they developed a very attractive but simple to use mobile app for earning loyalty points when you purchase fuel, gasoline. And here's the brilliant part, and especially I think everybody can relate it to now because we're all seeing what we're paying at the pump. They came up with this idea to promote on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., that you could buy fuel vouchers or gasoline vouchers at a discount. So basically you're pre-purchasing your fuel. These days, that's a wonderful thing to do because next week it's going to be higher than it was this week. So if you can buy my gasoline for the next month or two in advance at like a 10% discount, that's amazing. And so all of a sudden now you have a low-tech environment like a gasoline station where people are just driving in and filling up fuel into their car. It doesn't seem like much tech there. And they are now saying they now have a plan over the next 36 months to have 1/4 of the company's revenue through digital channels, which blows your mind if you think about it. And can you imagine also from a cash flow standpoint, because even though they're offering discounts, they're pre-selling the fuel. So I think that's a really great example. It's fantastic to what you're saying, right? Improvement in output and customer engagement. It's fantastic for the customers. It's fantastic for their improvement in output. And only that, they're gathering, to Yushini's point earlier, they're gathering all this massive amounts of data now about buying behaviors, right? Because they're collecting all of this every time someone uses the loyalty app. Then now they know. They got the customer profile, they know what station it was at, time of day, the amount of purchase, all of this. So now they're laying on top the analytics to see patterns in their business that they weren't able to see before. So,
that's a great point. Because
yeah, I mean, so there is an example, and it wasn't Shell Oil or somebody like this. It was a small, smaller independent operator of gasoline stations.
They implement a solution like that, and now they start to get data that they can further for additional ads to different ideas and solutions. That's brilliant. I guess it was like buying like $1 worth, right? It wasn't buying a gallon, right? There's no hedging involved with the purchase.
Right.
Right. Okay, got it. Yushini, that I think that's a great example of how that works. Great. Any questions? Did we inspire any questions out of Colin's example? And if not, that's okay. Christian, thank you for joining. I see you're new, and thank you, David, for your comment. I think you are a relatively new member as well. Terry, both Terrys, thank you, and Valerie. Yushini, any maybe at this point, without any questions, maybe we should wrap up, and any other comments that you want to make or emphasize about today, and then talk a little bit about next week's session, and then we'll close the program. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat, and then if you want to just introduce yourself, feel free to do that in the chat as well.
So just from my end, I mean, it really is great to be able to share with the members, what's available out there. not just our solution, but I mean, there are massive amounts of new developments within the tech space on a daily basis. What is going to be crucial for anybody who decides to use is that, and I think it was Kuntal who made the point, if you don't make use of what you have at your fingertips, you'll never be able to realize the benefit or the value in what we're talking about. So with our platform in particular, if you don't use it on a daily basis, you're never going to derive the type of data or insights or opportunities that the platform has to offer. It's all about using it and integrating it into your business. In terms of what we're talking about next week, also very much an understanding of what's been happening in the tech space with artificial intelligence, with virtual reality, with augmented reality, but more specifically, what's happening to the mid-market business that is needing a solution to operate better, to operate more efficiently, and to really grow and become unstoppable. We've created that opportunity for the mid-market business too, because we've realized that there are key things that are not in existence for these businesses, and we've used some of the best minds available to help bring our vision to life. What we are really intending to do and what we're intentional about is to support businesses globally, and that's what we believe we are doing.
Fantastic.
But that's it from my side. Thank you, Doug and Colin, and the members who have made the time to be present here today. It's been a great opportunity to talk to you.
Appreciate it very much. Colin, did you want to make any closing comments?
Well, also, thanks for including me today. It's always great to be in these events. I think I just, want to make the point that my passion is really around the micro and small entrepreneurs. Like, for example, one of the businesses that we had look at the B.E.T platform or use the B.E.T platform was a home bakery business. There's so many of these that have popped up in the pandemic, right? People have lost their jobs, or they're at home and they need to find some side income. And now with all the various delivery services that are available even here and online payments, there's ability to start businesses even with people, 2, 3, 4 people, doing something like a home bake shop. And they were able to use the tools for this. So I think that's the really important, is to open people's eyes up that you don't have to be a large scale or mid-sized scale business to do digital transformation, which sounds intimidating. You could even just be 3 or 4 people, baking banana bread and cinnamon rolls, and then finding ways, to access digital channels and to run your business and pay attention to the finances and your inventory of ingredients and all that sort of thing, right? So I think that's what's so exciting to me, is that, as I said before, democratizing, access to technology. I just want to emphasize to everyone that it's available whether you're large or whether you're just a single solo entrepreneur.
So I recommend checking out the website, and it's in the link. I think Yushini has shared it, but I've shared also the event listing, which has the information. Also a video that describes a little bit of it, and then join us next week and hear more about how this works, working at a mid-market segment as well. Thank you, Yushini, today for your information. Thanks all of you. Some of you are carryover, 2 hours of Global Chamber today in a row, and our next event is in 2 hours with another event here at Thunderbird at our new headquarters, and then in 6 hours, another conversation at Thunderbird. By then, oh my God, so 6 hours. So Colin, really, seriously, what time is it there? Is it like 1 in the morning or something?
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m. here in the Philippines. So I probably won't be around for the 1 and 2 hours.
We won't hold you to that for sure. Thanks everybody for whatever time it is there. You know, commitment to learning more through the Global Tribe is a commitment, and we appreciate it. Colin, sleep well. If we see you in 6 hours, great. If we don't, we will definitely understand. And thanks everybody. We'll have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Great job.